Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MT4MH Studios, where we spread our love and we share our ketogenic lifestyles. This is the Find Your Keto Show, and I'm your host, Stephen T., ready to guide you on your low-carb journey. Today, I'm excited to bring you an inspiring conversation with someone whose journey through life has been nothing short of transformative. Meet Dr. Eric Rodgers, an esteemed optometrist with nearly 4 decades of experience in the field and a personal story that reaches far beyond the exam room. From struggling with weight and metabolic challenges early in life to facing severe depression and finding hope in unexpected places, Dr. Rodgers has turned his life's trials into a powerful message of resilience and health advocacy. Today, he shares his incredible journey of overcoming depression and anxiety and reclaiming his mental and physical health through metabolic therapies. This is more than a story of professional achievement. It's a testament to the human spirit's power to adapt, learn, and inspire others. Let's dive in and explore the journey that turned Dr. Rodgers from a practitioner in optometry to a passionate advocate for metabolic health. Eric, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Yeah. And that's exactly what I've become, a passionate advocate for metabolic health.
That's right. You're what I refer to as one of the OGs. You've been doing this for so long and been involved with Metabolic Mind and everything.
Yeah. I got into this space in 2016, end of 2016. So I wonder when Metabolic Mind originated. That's been a few years, but
Yeah, I was wondering that myself.
yeah. But yeah. So where do you want to start?
Before we get into your story, I wanted to tell the audience how you and I met. We
Oh,
were both we were both volunteers for the Metabolic Revolution. That was the rally down in DC. And prior to that, we were on the Zoom calls on Sundays. And then you and I both participated in the Parade of Proof, where we gave speeches that are now available as shorts on the Metabolic Revolution YouTube site.
that's right. Yeah, no, earlier on, I felt like I knew everyone that was doing what I was doing. And then as time moves on, there's so many people like you, and I didn't know your story till long after you'd been out talking about it. So, but then, Jess came along, Jess Apple, and I absolutely wanted to be involved in the metabolic revolution and the rally that happened and what they're going to continue to do moving forward to promote better health, better guidelines, nutritional guidelines. And I ran across, met you there, and I'm fascinated by everybody's stories. I have my story, but you have your story, and everybody's story is a little different, but they all rhyme. And what they rhyme with is uh, eating wrong foods is at least part of the puzzle for most of the stories, or all the stories, I guess I follow.
That's true. That's true. And I'm like you, I'm interested in everybody's stories too. And I've hosted a bunch of guests that they're not necessarily mental health victims like you and I were, but
Yeah.
they've changed their diet to lose weight and they've seen profound mental benefits as well. So I'm fascinated by all those stories as well.
Yeah, and it's your brain is just another organ in your body, and so people that get diabetes, they have that. Maybe affects their pancreas more. People that get or muscles. People that get heart disease affects their heart, and of course you can have more than one. But the brain is just an organ, and so metabolic disease can affect the brain, and it doesn't isolate to the brain. And so it's just like with diabetes. Somebody might lose a foot. The next person might have no trouble there, but they have a heart attack. And so metabolic disease can isolate in the brain. Could just be mental symptoms. Otherwise, your blood pressure's fine. And yeah, so it's really interesting how it affects other people. Diabetics can have perfectly normal brain function. They don't have any depression. And that sort of confuses me. But it's just that everyone's going to react differently.
That's true. I hope that sometime in our lifetimes, we're going to discover enough about mitochondria and how they're affected by our metabolism and maybe get some further explanations on that. Because I seem to be pretty unique in that I have the anger and the irritability, and also at the epilepsy treatments work so well for me. I would love for them to be able to figure out why,
Yeah.
and to maybe determine biologically maybe there's a way that they could do a test on somebody to say, hey, you're like Stephen T. You're going to need the high fat version of this diet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's going to happen in our lifetime, so we'll be able to see it.
Yeah, that would be great to get more specificity into how the intervention looks for people.
Right.
It's most effective. But the first thing, if you're not doing any diet change, the first thing to do is obviously just eat real food, and that most people don't do that.
Cut out all the processed stuff. And even if you're someone who's not suffering from mental symptoms,
Yeah.
cutting out all the processed crap is going to be good.
And not suffering from mental symptoms is one thing, and there were periods in my life where I wasn't, but I wasn't optimally functioning either, and that's a key difference. A lot of the people in this area talk about, well, I didn't really have depression, but I never knew how much there was another gear I never had that now I have it. And so even though you may not have been on medicine for any mental issues, you're probably not functioning as well as you could be if you're optimized your metabolic health.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what my guests that have not had mental symptoms, that's what they've reported, is that they didn't realize how anxious they were before, how much their wheels were spinning. They didn't realize that they were depressed until they cleaned up their diet and it changed. And now they're suddenly happy and have gratitude and they're looking forward to simple things in life.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's start out with your early health journey. How about you
Yeah.
share with us your experiences with childhood struggles related to weight and how those experiences affected you emotionally and socially?
Yeah. So by third grade, I was overweight, and I knew it. I was different from most people my age, and but it actually wasn't a problem, really, other than I thought it was. I guess I thought it was a little strange. But then by middle school, late middle school, that's when it became uh, a problem because people would tease you, and because you were different. Now it might not be that may not be the case because middle school, there's so many that are overweight. That's not a good thing. And so that then made me wonder, well, why am I different? Why? I seem to be doing what everybody else is doing. Why am I struggling with my weight? Yeah, I thought that all through middle school or from eighth grade on, I would say. And but I had a good group of friends, and so that just made it easy. There was people over there or whatever teased me, but none of my friends, and so it actually got through that fine. So now we're getting ready to go to college, and I know Stephen's heard this story, but I don't want to go to college overweight. And so I'm just sitting there. Well, I've heard you're supposed to eat 3 times a day, and I realized I was eating all day. I mean, just I guess unless I was busy, I was eating, and even when I was, if I could, I was eating. Maybe that's the way to put it. So I did that. I just said, and I'm gonna eat breakfast at home, lunch, and then dinner. And dinner was pretty good because mom cooked dinner, and so that was a good meal. The other 2 meals were not good. McDonald's probably for lunch, and breakfast was cereal. However, at that age, cutting out all the other, I lost probably 20 pounds. And there I go to college, and I'm normal weight, and I could back up a little bit. I've had some level of anxiety through all this, even through grade school. Always worried about it. I was a worrywart, and we'll get more into that later. So now we're at college, and I'm thriving. I do well in college. And I don't really struggle with weight. I am starting to exercise in college. I am starting to run, and that helps stabilize things. And so I do pretty well. But I am putting on some of that weight that I had lost gradually into optometry school now. And by the time I'm in optometry school, early mid 20s, I guess, somewhere around there, I get on high blood pressure medicine. And, it ran in my family. So my mom, my uncle. So, well, okay, which just runs in my family. And I guess that's what doctors probably told me. I mean, that is fact, but why does it run in your family? And why did I have it? So yeah, looking back now, it's easy to see in optometry school, I had metabolic syndrome because I had the waist circumference and I had the high blood pressure, and I probably had the low HDL and high triglycerides. Didn't don't recall getting those measured at that point, but still do okay. I'm getting along. Some anxiety, but yeah, doing okay. Then now we're out of optometry school and start a practice. That's all stressful, but still, getting along okay. So that's now through my 30s, and still running a little bit, but nothing extraordinary. Now I'm on blood pressure medicine and cholesterol medicine. Whenever Lipitor was invented, I think I started it shortly thereafter. And if you look at my labs from that time, it was high triglycerides, low HDL, uh, LDL was starting to go up, and blood pressure problems throughout. So now we're getting into the late 30s. I'm starting to run a little more, but I'm on two blood pressure medicines now, and the statin. And now we're in our 40s or starting 40, and I amp up the exercise. A friend of mine was running marathons, and I thought, well, I'm going to do that. Actually, it was a patient. She ran a marathon for her 50th birthday. That was her celebration. And so I said, well, I'm going to do it for my 40th. And so I did. And still on high blood pressure medicine, still on cholesterol medicine. Uh, it helped with the weight. It kept the weight stable, I would say. And now we go through the early 40s, and things are going along okay. Work gets more challenging, and by age 45, the anxiety, still running marathons, the anxiety really ramps up. And I'm not sure the real trigger for the first bout of major depression, but there it was at age 45. So go to my family doctor, a very smart man, and I was having trouble sleeping, and so I'll never forget. He said, "Do you think this could be a mood issue?" I just literally said no. So then it goes a little longer. So try sleep medicines, and that will help you sleep. So then he finally says, you need to see a psychiatrist. I think you'd benefit. I never told him I was depressed, but he could see it. So there I go to the psychiatrist, and I get put on Lexapro. And yeah, that's at age 45. And yeah, it does. These medicines aren't all bad. Uh, they have benefits, but they need to be. When I was put on it at 45, in an ideal world, I would have been taught how to eat and other lifestyle things to say, okay, over here, you get off it. You need it now. Here you are in front of me. It's obvious you're not doing well. You need the medicine. And it will help a lot of people. It did help me. Um, but I wasn't given that next step, what else to do, or even thoughts of getting off it. So 45, and still running marathons. Let me see what's going to be the next. Well, then there was the second bout of major depression, and when I had that one, I read that each bout of major depression will be progressively worse, and that wasn't good to read that, obviously. So between the first and the second, I just kind of I was getting along, sort of like I did in optometry school, and was doing okay, but not optimal. That's what we may have talked about just earlier. People don't realize there's another level they could function on because they're just getting by and think they're doing okay. And that's where I was, and from 40 to 45. And then we had this second bout, and I don't really recall when the medicines changed, but probably got put on more than just Lexapro. Maybe tried a different medicine, still on a statin, still on high blood pressure medicine, still running marathons. I guess that's not enough to fix metabolic disease and its consequences of high blood pressure and depression and cholesterol problems. Still running marathons now, and I get through the second bout, and now comes the third bout. That's age 55. And that one, and it, yeah, okay. Just like I read. Yeah, it's going to be, well, yeah, it was worse. It was far worse.
Before you continue at this point, I want to cut you off.
Yep.
You're blowing through all my questions. You're answering everything. You're
Well,
answering all my
you're giving me
questions.
questions at a time.
It's no, it's great. It's great. But I know that you had that last bout at 55 was where you had a turning point.
Yep.
So before we get into that, I want to talk a little more detail on your story up to that point.
No, so give me a question then.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm curious about is when you initially changed your diet because you wanted to lose weight for college and you
Well,
started
yeah,
eating
yeah.
3 meals a day. Did you notice any difference or improvement in your mood at that time?
Good question. I don't. I just can't recall that. I'm sure there may have been. There probably was. Well, there was because I had a better appearance. Um, but maybe I attributed the better mood to that when it was really a little better metabolic
Right.
status in me. Interesting.
And it's hard to remember because you were probably late teens at that point, right?
That's
Preparing for
right.
college.
That was late 70s.
Okay.
So yeah.
All
So
right. So one of the things I heard you mention on a previous podcast was suffering from what if thinking.
yeah,
And I want you to tell our audience how that's related to anxiety and how it influences your coping mechanisms.
what if thinking is sort of getting in a loop of, well, what if this happens? And then, well, that's not good. Well, then, and then that's the end of my thought, really. And, but then it repeats itself. And then you just get fixated on a particular problem. And you could just think about the same problem all day. Then you go to bed and that same problem's in your mind and you, rumination, I believe they call it. So yeah, and it was a strange thing to have because it would just persist and then that problem might go away, but another one would fill it. So it was always worry. You always had something to worry about.
Do you feel like during your period of marathon training that it helped your mental health?
Yes, absolutely, and for multiple reasons. The biggest reason might have been improving metabolism somewhat, but probably actually the bigger reason is having something to look forward to and feeling a progress. You're making progress towards a goal that you want. And that could help anybody who's not doing well, and it could be a little thing. Their goal could be just going to work and trying to have a good day, and then if that happens, then you feel a little better at the end of that day. But for me, for marathon running, I enjoyed running, and it gave me and then you tell enough people you're doing a marathon, and now you're motivated. Oh, Eric said he's going to do a marathon in January. That was my first one in Disney, and so, well, okay, January is going to come, and you've either did it or did you ever do that marathon? So that was a good motivator for me. So, as I was making progress, it was a good, reinforcing. It was a good feeling, and then the training itself was great because I was in a running group, so once a week you met with people doing the same thing you were doing, and having a community of people striving a lot of times for the same race. So, but yeah, I did. Disney was my first one, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, running was essential. And then during the worst periods of my depression, while I was running, it would give me temporary relief, um, and it wouldn't happen instantly, but I would start running, and then about halfway through the run, I'd say, "Oh, okay, now I can think good thoughts." It was really fascinating. I knew nothing about anything at that point. I just knew somewhere during the run, I would start to feel better, and might be related to runner's high. And that was a relief. There were times when I ran twice a day, and I was like, "Wow, this is cheating. I get to feel good twice a day." I really remember that. I was running mornings and evenings, and that was great. Yeah, running was part of my coping, and during the periods of the first major depression started at 45, like I believe we said, and I started running at 40, and so then yeah, at 45, I was still running marathons, and now being placed on medication, which was Lexapro.
I
And
took Lexapro at one point too. I don't remember what kind of drug that was, but I know it didn't work for me. I mean,
yeah, it's SSRI.
is it? Yeah, that was like one of the newer ones because I was around when it was like Prozac, Paxil, and there was
Yeah,
another one.
Paxil was the first one I was on, and
Yeah.
it made me dramatically worse.
Yes, they all do to me.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that because Lexapro absolutely gave me relief.
Interesting.
It should have been, here's your Lexapro. Now here's your lifestyle that'll lead you to a place where you're off of Lexapro. And that's not how it went in my case. And that's not how it goes in anyone's case, unless they randomly find metabolic treatment for mental illness or for diabetes or for high blood pressure or for obesity or for PCOS. The one tool of improving your metabolism improves every organ in your body, including the brain. And that's where it's hard for people to wrap their brain around because they feel, well, you're just thinking about the wrong things. You just need to stop thinking about that. You need to be thinking about this and just snap out of it. And I understand that perception because they've never had this. They don't think the way we did, and so they're like, well, why are they thinking wrong? Just fix your thinking. But no, it's there's two things. There's the biology, and then there's the mind. And the mind is your thoughts. And the biology is your brain metabolism. And in my case, once that was broken, it led to bad thoughts, and there was no improving the thoughts until the metabolism was fixed, and that was done through the you know improving my diet and keto lifestyle. So that's why it's just a foreign concept to people. They don't
Yeah.
get it.
I love how you said that. I
Yeah.
love how you said that because in the past couple of years since I discovered keto, I wasn't always able to stick to it and I didn't always have it
Mm,
figured out. And I was struggling at one point and I went back to a psychiatrist and I took Lamictal again, which is an anti-seizure med. And I also tried a new type of therapy I've never done, which is DBT or dialectical behavioral therapy.
mm,
And something new for me. It's for people with borderline personality disorder. And if I read the DSM for that, I fit in there. I also fit in all the other boxes. I fit in bipolar. I fit a little bit in schizophrenia. But the thing with the therapy is with DBT, it's a lot about mindfulness and being in the moment. And there's
mm.
really a lot of good strategies there. But
Absolutely.
what I found was when I'm not doing the diet right, and my brain is not metabolizing energy right, I cannot implement any of those strategies because my brain is not working right. And I had stretches where my brain was well, and then something would happen, and I can take a deep breath and I could be mindful, and then I could reflect on all of the things they teach you, like reflect on the week, and instead of pointing out all the negative, try to point out the positives. But I cannot, like I said, I cannot implement any of those strategies unless my brain is working
Yeah,
properly
and that's
first.
exactly what there is more than one path to having depression, and one of the paths is a majority of thinking the wrong thoughts. But if your brain metabolism isn't working, you're not getting out of that. Period. And so, I use the same tool. My book was Power of Now. I found that long before I found ketogenic lifestyle, and that was very good for me. In that it was just all you have is the current moment. It's a great book. If no one's ever read it, they should read it. You live your life in the now, and if you're worrying about the future, you're avoiding your life right now or the past. those both exist as concepts, but they're not helpful in doing in having a really happy life. I would say, you know.
Yeah,
So,
those are great concepts, but they can be easier said than done for
oh,
somebody who's
absolutely, and that's where
really
if your
struggling.
brain is in the wrong place, if I'm in
Yeah,
my what if thinking cycle, then forget it. Yeah, I'm stuck there.
right.
And that's what's kind of remarkable. Once the metabolism was fixed in my brain, the thoughts fixed themselves. It was like my brain, it was like my thoughts wanted to do the right thing, but they weren't allowed to because of malfunctioning mitochondria, as Dr. Palmer's book points out. So yeah, that was how exercise got me through, but not all the way better. And now there we are, 45. Um, Started on medicine, Lexapro, still on blood pressure medicine, still on statins. Now we go the next 10 years on some sort of psychiatric medication. The second episode, like I said earlier, was worse. And then I come out of them, though. I came out of both of those bouts and I just got by. And I'm running and I have a practice, I have a family, and I'm getting by. I think I'm doing good. But then after I get out of the third episode, I realized I could have been better during those times. But now we're at the third, and it was severe. There was just persistent. I eventually, with depression, you lose enjoyment of activities, and it was like one was taken away at a time. It was sinister. And running was the last to go. Interestingly, that's I have never thought of that till just now. But you would do things, but you weren't enjoying them. You just do them because you're supposed to do them. And so there I am, barely running, and now I'm not running, and yeah, and the psychiatrist is trying multiple medicines at this point. And rightfully so. And interestingly, I think he randomly, I thought, said, "Why don't you stop your statin?" That was kind of a light bulb moment for me because I'm
Your
like,
psychiatrist said that?
"Thank you." That's exactly what he said.
Huh.
And I was desperate at that point. I said, "Sure, I'll stop it tomorrow," and I did. And that didn't help at that point. Uh, but it cracked open my mind that doctors, don't always have the right answer. I mean, you want to believe that you go to them and they're going to fix you, but you do have to fix yourself with fat. I'll throw that in.
He's ready for the end of the
I'll
show,
throw that in a
gentlemen.
little early. Yeah, I had to fix myself with fat. So anyway,
Nice.
now I've lost my train of thought. Where was I? Okay, yeah, no, he said stop the statin. So I'm like, okay, sure. I'm desperate, and I didn't do anything. So now we're going through this worst year, and now we're coming up at the end of the year on a lot of medicines now, several mood medicines at the same time, and progressively getting worse still. And my sister actually said, "Well, why don't you tell him to try Effexor?" That worked for me, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do anything at this point." And somehow we got tapered off everything but that, and actually got a fraction better. Uh,
Ah, good.
Fraction.
What
Man,
type of med is that? Do you
no,
remember?
actually, that's not the correct sequence. I got better when, strangely, I was been gaining weight when I stopped running, and strangely, I lost appetite. I thought strangely towards the end of that year, and then I started losing weight, and that wasn't the worst thing because I had weight to lose, and but I'm just not interested in eating anymore, and so that's not good. I knew I could, and I was pretty quickly losing weight, and I knew that wasn't a long range strategy. But food actually lost taste, and that's kind of strange. I've talked to Dr. Palmer about that, and that is a known thing.
That's while taking Effexor?
Yeah, but I don't think it was that. I think it's the depression can cause loss of appetite, and then eventually food tastes the same, bland. Everything tasted bland. And the joke you'll get that most people watching this won't get is I'm just going through the grocery store. Like I got to get calories in me, so I got to buy Ensure because it's a lot of calories, and they
Ay,
give it
ay,
to
ay.
people who are sick to put weight back on.
Yeah.
I bought that, and I tried to drink that a few times. So now we're coming up on a new year, and randomly I start feeling just a little better. It's really interesting. And actually, there was one day where I'm like, wow, this is actually I don't know, what is this? I don't feel like my life is over. I feel like I have a future. I could have a future. And so that's when I made the appointment to see my family doctor, who had my family doctor retired. I had a new one, and I hadn't been going. And so I said, well, I might have a future, so let's go to the doctor and see what's going on there. And talk to a doctor about that. And that's where another few light bulbs went off. So now I'm at the doctor. I guess I was still running here. It's hard to track that. No, I was not running at the time. I had been running, but my weight was down. So anyway, I'm at the doctor, and she says, "Oh, you're pre-diabetic. You should eat less fat and exercise more."
Right. Yeah,
So
that'll do it.
that's what you would tell someone today.
Ay, ay, ay.
But here's the thing. I was so I it was so helpful because I said, "Wow, completely." You didn't do the history, didn't know I was ran marathons for 20 years or whatever it was, 17 years. I didn't. So yeah, exercise is wrong for me. That's not my solution. I was doing marathons and got progressively worse. So eat less fat. I said, "Wow, that might be wrong too." So she could be off base completely. So now I walk out of the doctor. I'm like, well, they don't know, they don't know how to fix this. And so I walked into the bookstore because I was starting to feel a little better, still on Effexor, and I'm like, you know what? Let's at least don't gain all that weight back. I'm wanting to eat again, and appetite's back. I'm still on medicine, but I'm like, let's just at least not gain the weight back.
Yeah.
Something positive came out of it. So anyway, go to the bookstore. How
Before you continue, do you know what your labs were like when you got diagnosed as pre-diabetic?
Yeah, I don't recall them off the top of my head, but the highest my triglycerides got, they were like 170, I believe I saw at
Wow.
one point. HDL for a decade, 2 decades was under 50,
Mm.
3. Um, and A1C was probably 5.7. It was just
Okay.
barely pre-diabetic, but it was pre-diabetic.
So your fasting glucose was probably around 100 or so,
Yeah,
over
yeah, I
100.
bounced
Yeah.
around 100 for
Yeah.
2 decades
Yeah.
probably. And so just the classic insulin resistant metabolic syndrome story. And yeah, Barnes and Noble, here I come. I'm
All right.
walking
Let's hear it.
front and center. First book I see, How Not to Die by Michael Greger. You may not know him, but anyway, he's a vegan proponent, and
I do. I know him. I
yeah.
know him
So
from many
anyway,
years.
so yeah, but I didn't know that, and he has a fancy website and all these videos. So, and there's nothing wrong with being vegan. You can do this, what we're doing. It's difficult, but you can do this with a vegan lifestyle. And so there I went vegan for 6 months, and but I was also cutting out sugar because I had heard enough about diet that I knew sugar was bad, and vegan doesn't necessarily cut out sugar. So I cut out sugar and animal foods for 6 months, and I was still on medicine. Got a little better, and then somewhere down the line, I found low. It was called low carb, high fat then, and I'm like, wow, this would be a lot less work to eat that. I mean, literally, it's work to eat that much plants. It's work going in and coming out.
I'm glad you said that because I was
It's a
already thinking
job.
it.
Well, I mean, you see what cows are over there doing. So anyway, find that and start to feel even a little better. And so now we're at the end of 2016, and now we're going into 17. And I'm finding on Twitter, I'm finding the low carb community and learning about uh, keto lifestyle. I did learn from Ted Naiman early on,
Mhm.
uh,
Me
and
too.
and then I diet doctor, which maybe they're going to get back to their low carb roots at some point. Learned a lot there, and then maybe there is where I found Dr. Eid. Now I'm going through 2017, and now I'm going to latch on to everything she says, every word, because if people don't know, she's a metabolic psychiatrist who's been at the forefront of all this. So here we are in 2017, still on medicine, 225 Effexor, which is a high dose, and but I'm feeling better, and because of the keto diet, and I'm like, maybe that's all I need. So back to Barnes and Noble, Psychology Today, reading through it. I'm almost certain this is where I saw it. Dr. Eid was going to a nutrition conference on psychiatry. That's wow, that's wild. I think I'll go. And that was not like me. I was not. I was somewhat shy, you could say, and not outgoing, not gregarious. Keto changes that in people. Just little disclaimer warning there. People might need to know. Uh,
Yeah. It's the reason I'm out here doing this now. This is not
exactly.
me to be doing this.
This isn't you.
I,
This is you
I,
on fat.
I traveled to Miami for 2 days to take a course with Chris Palmer, and while I was there, I was talking to him like he was my friend, and I asked him to be a guest on the show.
Exactly.
It took a lot of balls for me to do that. I normally wouldn't do something like
It's
that.
exactly. We're different people.
Right.
So I was different enough to go, and there I went. And Dr. Eid spent 2 days really talking with me quite a lot. And this is in 2017 when this was fairly new. And there was a lecture, and I want to find the name of the talk, but it was Dr. Palmer talking about keto for mental illness. And he gave stories, back to stories. And that's why I'm doing this. I think stories can help people. Um, he gave two stories of two or three of his patients, and they were so dramatic. One of his patients he's talked about a lot weighed 300 pounds. He was in his father's basement. He was hearing voices. He couldn't do anything. And he wanted to lose weight. Dr. Palmer said, well, I know how you can lose weight. Do the keto diet, do the Atkins diet. And there you go, he lost weight. And he thought that would be the end of the story for him, that wouldn't help his severe schizoaffective disorder, which is the most severe mental illness you could pick. No one picks that.
Right. That's a combination of bipolar and schizophrenia.
Yeah. So and then he loses the weight and his mood gets a little better. And Dr. Palmer said, "Oh yeah, well that's what happens. It can help your mood and it can help you lose weight." But then he says he stopped hearing voices, and that was his light bulb moment where he said, "I've got to talk about this." And so I was there, 2017, first talk he ever gave.
Amazing.
And yeah, you want to get locked in, listen, sit next to a Harvard psychiatrist while another Harvard psychiatrist is saying food can heal your brain. I mean, you would have to be very mentally ill to walk out of that and not not change what you're eating. Maybe some people are that bad off, but I wasn't. I was like, I'm stuck on this, and so then now you got to get off medicine, and that's its own chapter and verse, and it can be very tricky. I got lucky. I just very minutially cut it back. Over probably 6 8 months, I just kept cutting back, and I would take that amount, and then I would take it every other day, then I would take it every third day. And I think looking back, I was really delaying the zero medicine because I knew that I've read enough that that's the most dangerous moment. And yet I didn't have any the bad side effects from tapering. But
And that
anyway,
was the Effexor still?
what's that?
That was Effexor still?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't have any kind of side effects from that?
I had none coming off.
You were, but you were keto, because I've taken lots of different medications, also lots of drugs in my lifetime, and Effexor was the absolute worst to get off of. It was
That's
worse.
what Dr. Palmer has told me.
It was worse
Paxil.
than quitting nicotine because of
Yeah,
the side effects.
yeah,
I would get terrible brain zaps from it,
yeah,
and I had
exactly.
days where I couldn't even go outside in the
So I
sunlight.
read about those. I knew they were.
Oh,
I knew they
it
were
was
out
terrible.
there, and I was terrified to have them happen. I just got lucky. But Paxil, the one I started on, and Effexor, the one I ended on, those are they say those are the two hardest to get off of.
Interesting.
Not to mention benzodiazepines, I guess it is.
Yeah,
I had a few of those along the way to calm you down, and luckily I never didn't use those very much. But no, I
that
just
would be like Valium, Xanax, Klonopin, things like that.
Klonopin. That's
And
it.
I used to use those recreationally
Mm.
because I smoked pot for many years for relief, and then that brought me into hanging out with people that did drugs, and I would just do anything. So I would crush and snort those. I didn't really like them. I didn't really like how they made me feel, but I was part of the scene, and I would crush and snort Valium, and didn't even really like it.
So it's sort of the way you eat steaks now, but you like steaks.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. The extreme, yeah. It's always the extreme end of everything for me, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Moving over to diet for a little bit, but anyway, so I should finish the story, I guess. So yeah, that was 2017, and I was off all medicine, and now it's what 2024, and I've been off medicine since 17, and it's just
Let me give you a round of applause for that. That's amazing.
and
So
what's most remarkable is just the complete certainty in my mind that if I continue this, I don't go back. It's almost like if you stop hitting your hand with a hammer, your hand will start feeling better. And if you never do it again, it's not going to hurt again. It's really people that haven't gone through it, you can understand, but people that haven't gone through it really don't get that part of it. So, and that's why well, why, you've done this so long, why don't you just have your cake over here and have your cake and eat it too? Feel better and eat your cake. And I will throw in a quick story there. I did that for my sister's birthday party. I was several years into this and had one meal, just one meal, I ate the whole kit and caboodle, all of it. And I wasn't even wanting to eat, but I was just like, I'm just going to do it. I wasn't really craving the food in front of me, but I ate it all, including the chocolate cake. And yeah, the next day, for certain, it was like, wow. And it's almost, I'm very much a biohacker. I find all this fascinating to the point to where that was very interesting. This is depression. It's here, right here it is today. I know this. And luckily I don't, that was just the one meal. So another day and a half and it was gone. And I was like, wow, that was wild. uh, probably shouldn't do that again.
what kind of items did you have in that meal that
Oh
you
yeah.
remember?
No, and the whole meal wasn't that bad. It was at a restaurant and, the bulk of it there was, meat, there was vegetables, there was potatoes, and I don't know what I probably had wine, and but it was the chocolate cake probably was the biggest offender there,
Mhm.
in the dessert, and who knows? I just don't know. I remember the restaurant. I don't remember. I just remember eating everything in front of me, like the old days. And that was one trap with running. And you needed a carb load, which you don't need to do, by the way. But that was the thinking.
Right.
So yeah, I would eat all you can eat pizza on a Friday and then get the dessert pizza at the end of that because it was there and I was going to run 26 miles the next day. So obviously I should have the dessert pizza. Yeah. And I should also throw in, I ran 2 marathons on keto just because I'd read enough to know that that's possible. And not only was it possible, the energy level, I didn't hit the wall. Got to mile 23 and 4, and I was like, yeah, well, I mean, I didn't feel great, but I didn't have that extreme, I'm stopping
Right.
now moment.
When you did your non-keto marathons, did you have gels or bars or anything you would take during it?
This could be traumatic, post traumatic memories here. just because I now know how bad it was. Oh, I did. I had the gels, and they said every 45 minutes, and I was like, I bet every 30 minutes would be better.
And for people who don't know, it's basically sugar. You're just
That's
fueling
all.
your body with more sugar.
That's all
So
it
then, when you
is.
did the keto ones, did you use any kind of gels or
I
food
know,
during?
just electrolytes. That was it.
Amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and no breakfast either. I
Yeah.
San Diego Marathon. I remember I'm not eating breakfast either. I'm just going out here.
So you were fasted, and you didn't intake any energy. Just electrolytes would be minerals like salt,
Yeah, yeah,
potassium,
just
magnesium.
a lot of electrolytes. I can't remember what I was using at that time. It was before the ones that are out now, but just a lot of
Not
electrolytes.
calories, just minerals. Yeah.
You know.
That's amazing. It's amazing what the body's capable of.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's capable of healing, and that's what people need to understand because, yeah, there's in the depths of this, you're like, well, I've tried everything, this ain't working, and this is getting old. It's getting very old. So if there's nothing left to try, then that's good. I'm good. We're good. Let's just stop this. But so that's where Dr. Ead's book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, she says the most powerful tool in her tool belt is not talk therapy, which is great. It's not um, all the medicines she has, which also have a place. All those have a place. But if the most powerful one there is fixing your diet. And, um, and so it's so powerful that people should know that if you're on medicine, yeah, you need to consult with your doctor. I mean, my story was without a doctor because there weren't, and there's not many now to consult with. But whoever prescribed your medicine needs to know, and you now know enough to know it's going to change how the medicines act in you, and they need to be looking for that. You need someone to be watching you. One thing that can happen and did happen with me a little bit. If you're on the medicine on Effexor and you're on a keto diet and you're getting better, you can actually get some hypomania. You can not sleep enough. You can have excess energy, and you feel better than is rational. Of course, that feels pretty good
It
too.
does, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, but it's not sustainable, and it could lead to a bad place. And that's where I kept tapering the medicine. And then once I was off completely, then that went away.
I know what I hear from a lot of people is that they're just more sensitive, so a lower dose will affect them more. I know
Yeah.
the last time I took Lamictal, I was doing a keto diet. I wasn't doing it the way I am now. I was probably regular keto, more at 70 or 80% fat. But in the past, I would take 150 milligrams or 200 milligrams. I think 150 is the minimum therapeutic dose. So when I saw my psychiatrist and he was prescribing me, he wanted to get me up to 150 like in no time. And I said, well, we're going to pump the brakes because I do things slowly. I know my body. And so the initial dose is only 25. You do that for a week, then you do 50 for a week, and then they try to push you up really fast. I started feeling side effects and positive benefits right away at 25. And he argued with me that that's not possible. It can't be. And then when I got to 50, I said, I feel pretty good. I'm going to hang out here for a couple of weeks. He's like, well, no, 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 it's not therapeutic. You need to push up. I said, no, no. I pumped the brakes. I'm just going to hang out here for a little bit. And then once because I experience side effects each time I go up, and a lot of it is affecting my sleep, which is no good. If I can't sleep, then what's the point of even living? So I did 50 for a couple of weeks. I felt better, and then he pushed me up, and he wanted me to go right to 100. I said, no, I'm going to 75. I have the 25s here, and I did the 75. And after like 10 days, I just my side effects were not easing. I had really terrible anxiety. And when I told him, he argued with me. He said, no, you're not even feeling anything from these pills. It's not possible. It's not therapeutic. I said, no, I felt good at 50. It took the edge off. I
Mm,
was in an emergent situation. And at 50, it's no longer an emergency. I feel okay. And he literally wanted to argue with me so that every appointment going forward, it was just like, he's
wow.
going to ask me my questions. How are you? Any change in appetite? How's work? How's the family? And I just, like a robot, just answer the questions and give me my next script so I can do the medicine on my own.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I hate hearing that story. I hate hearing that and it's because doctors don't understand the power of diet. And what Dr. E just said, it's the most powerful intervention you have to improve your mind. And so you add that to less powerful interventions, medicines. Well, there's a lot going on there because you've already
Right.
you've already pulled the biggest lever you have. And then you add something else, it's going to have more effect than it would have had without that lever. So
And I tried to explain it all to him. I gave him some resources to look up. I explained the difference between ketosis and glucosis, and but he just didn't care. He wanted to just
yeah,
move on to
yeah.
his
I
next
don't.
patient.
It's so baffling. I understand because I'm an eye doctor, and so I see patients, and you get rushed, and you've seen this for 30 years, so you know what happens in every case except for Stephen, who's doing some diet that you've never even heard of. So he thinks he's different, but he's not different. But no, you're completely different. Once you change your metabolism, once you're in ketosis, regardless of which problem you're solving, obesity, diabetes, PCOS, high blood pressure, heart disease, mental disease, you don't play by the same rules that your doctor knows. Your doctor knows the rules for people eating the standard American diet, and he's correct on those rules. But there's no evidence on what we're doing. There's little. It's coming out now, but your doctor's just stuck in what all his other patients. You're the only one doing this, so you really can't be different. You just think you're different.
That's right. And his only experience with keto diet was for epilepsy for children. And
Mm,
he didn't see the connection to mental health. And I tried to show him the resources. But the one main thing I told him was that in my life, I've never had seizures, but it's always been anti seizure
exactly.
remedies that work for me. I smoked marijuana for many years. It gave me relief. It just turns out that my favorite types of pot, by the way, are the ones they use for seizures. They were the ones that made me feel the best and were my favorite. The Lamictal that he was prescribing is an anti-seizure med. I'm just trying to, so like I said, Doc, can you explain why is it that an anti-seizure med is helping me with my depression and my anxiety? He had no answer.
Well, I'm curious. Did you come to that realization before Dr. Palmer's work?
I did. I kind of it
That's
all kind of
wild.
it happened by accident. Yeah. So the pot thing and the Lamictal, I never made the connection between the two. I knew that pot was used for seizures, but I didn't make the connection
Yeah.
until I got into ketosis by accident. I didn't know what it was or what was happening. I just knew I felt the best I ever had. I felt calm. I felt that peace. It was literally the best I'd ever felt in my life. And then it was after that I heard Palmer probably talking about the same patient with the schizoaffective disorder whose voices started. He was able to come in a few weeks after starting keto and say, "You know those voices in my head? I don't think they're real. I still hear them, but they're going away. They're getting quieter." And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Oh man, this is." And he said something about ketogenic diet, and when it was my subsequent research that I saw, yeah, they use ketogenic diet for epilepsy. That's when the light bulb went off that all my remedies were all connected in some
Yeah,
way.
yeah, no, that's and that was. I don't think Dr. Palmer put it together till he did after that patient. Then in writing his book, he did the research and he realized, wait a minute, seizure medicines we've been using in psychiatry. I've been using them for all these years, not realizing that keto fixes seizures. Seizure medicine fixes
Right.
that, and then so yeah, the connection to mental illness was right there.
And there's a funny connection to that too, because back in the day when I used to smoke a lot of pot and I would get the types that I liked, this is before it was legal. So now I can go 5 minutes down the street and I can actually get the exact one I want. But when you're buying it on the street, you might get it like once every
Oh,
couple of months,
absolutely.
the one you want. But the joke was, it was funny because when I would get the stuff I liked, I would have this urge to clean and organize and rearrange. And my friends would always make fun of me because I'm like, I become the cleaning lady. I want to clean everything. And it's funny because when I do the high fat beef only diet, it's like I have that same urge to where I want to keep my environment organized and I
Mm,
want to get things done and I want to clean and it's the same feeling except I'm not dealing with all the side effects from
yeah,
the pot,
yeah,
obviously.
absolutely. Yeah, that's just people don't know, and I don't expect everybody to understand because if you haven't gone through it, you really can't understand. But we're here for the people who are not in a good place right now and that might think that, hey, try it. I mean, I like what Dr. Palmer says. He says, try it for 90 days. If it doesn't work, then throw it away.
Right.
But he says that knowing they're going to come back on that 90th day and say they feel better than they've ever felt. And but then and you've heard the story. He says some of them are mad at him because he said, well, now you said I could just do it for 90. Now I'm stuck on this because I know it's going to come back. But eventually, yeah, it's just easier to eat this way. You don't have to think about it as much. You've even simplified further. But for me, I just eat. I eat beef, eggs, bacon, um, pork, cheese, and then I can and macadamia nuts. You don't eat macadamia nuts, obviously, but
I don't. I can tell you why if you want to hear it.
yeah, what happens?
Well, there's a couple reasons. When I eat nuts and seeds, they will bother me in some way. And I only know this because I've cut them out for so long. And then when I add them back, I get skin issues.
Mm,
And then any food item that bothers my skin is also going to bring some of my symptoms back.
sure.
So
Yeah.
if I eat nuts every day, it's got to be inflaming me somehow, is what I think. And my most prominent symptoms are irritability and anger. And
Mm,
if I eat them long enough, I'll get depressed. The other problem is I have the substance abuse problem. And so something like nuts, I can't regulate nuts.
mm,
So you
mm,
have a bag sitting there in front of you. If I
mm,
had that bag, I could
mm.
be good for a couple of days. I could weigh out a
Yeah.
portion or I could have a handful for a day or two. But then by the third or fourth day, I'm eating the entire bag.
This is where everybody's different.
Right. And then
Everybody's rules for getting better and staying
right.
better are
And
different.
where that road ends for me is not at that bag of nuts, but it might be a week or two later, but it's going to end in Snickers and Reese's and ice cream.
Mm,
And now I'm not just irritable and angry. Now I'm depressed.
yeah,
Now I do not like what I see in the mirror, and that I may end up wishing I could be unalive again.
yeah, yeah.
So that's what nuts do to me. That's the reason, like you said, I simplified my diet, and it is simple, but I'm not doing it for the simplification. I'm doing it because I react to all these other items.
What I was saying is that it's the simplification is just a side benefit for me.
Right. Exactly. Well, you should see now that for the last couple of months that I'm fully raw because I'm not cooking my food, so I don't need a stove or a pan.
Yeah,
I just most of the time what I've been doing lately is I portion up all my fat and meat ahead of time. So I'm weighing out 100 grams of fat, putting it in I hate to use plastic, but Ziploc bags, 75 grams of meat, Ziploc bags, vacuum seal it, put it in the freezer. So most days I'm just taking bags out and I'm just eating with my hands. So I don't even have a utensil at this point that I'm cleaning. It's like 10 minutes eating. I throw the bags away. I'm done. That's as simple as you can possibly get.
absolutely, absolutely, and there's the beauty in that. Um, it frees up a lot of time.
It does, yeah. And what I like about it is that it makes food less and less a part of my life.
Yeah, well, exactly. And same here. I mean, yeah, I used to, yeah, and a lot of people do. I mean, people think about food all day, and that's not, or they're always, when's my next meal? Like being hungry all the time. Losing hunger is dramatic. People don't understand that because most people have never lost their hunger, or being able to not eat for a day. Um, it's just, and that's how we're supposed to be. I mean, we didn't evolve looking for chips on the ground and every little snack food that we can get our hands on. Yeah, we went periods without eating, and
Right. So our bodies are adapted to the fasting. And
that's
people think I'm nuts when I fast. I was just talking to my mom on Friday because last week I did a 96-hour fast and I didn't plan a 96. I planned a 24. I like to fast on Sundays. It's something I've been doing with friends of mine. And so I fasted on Sunday. And then I just never really had true hunger Monday or Tuesday. So I didn't eat, but it sounds so foreign. And my mom makes a cringe face like, like you're going to kill yourself. You're not taking calories in, but she just doesn't understand the difference. So for you, how many times a day are you eating?
well, yeah, I eat 3 times a day. So
You still eat?
once my weight stabilized, and it's easy to undereat this way. Doing this for years, I could have continued to lose weight, and that weight would have been muscle and bone. Because you don't just lose fat when you lose weight, and so yeah, I need to eat 3 times a day to get enough food in. I probably could eat twice a day and get enough food in and not lose weight. So yeah, but my meals get smaller as the day goes on. My breakfast is my biggest meal. My favorite meal is 3 eggs, 4 pieces of bacon, cheese. coffee, half and half. Then lunch, it would be 3 cheeseburgers most frequently. Then dinner would be 1 cheeseburger.
You have the same breakfast every day?
What's that?
You have the same breakfast every day.
Every single day.
And that doesn't get boring, right? You don't get tired of that?
That's what's interesting. Yeah, not at
Love
all.
it.
Not even a tiny bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's unique to me. Must be. I remember one time I was before he blew up. Sean Baker would interact with me on Twitter quite frequently, and I would just and at one time I just randomly said I never get tired of eating steak, and he said, tired of eating steak, you're tired of life. And so that's true. I don't get tired of
Yeah.
steak, but I do prefer hamburger because I need more fat. uh, and it's easy to undereat fat, because you have to add fat to food, or in your case, you eat the fat that came with the meat. But if you just buy hamburgers, you're cooking, you lose all the fat. So I have to add
Right.
butter, olive oil. And lately, like I've told you, I'll throw a plug in for keto bricks. Maybe somebody will tell me why I shouldn't be eating them. But
I tried telling you that already.
what's
I
that?
told you what it does for me. I told you what it does to me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And that's where everybody's different. Yeah. And so I could probably make my diet more flexible going forward. But, if it's not broken, why fix it?
Yeah, that's a good point. But there may be this extra level that you've never gotten to. You may be thinking that you're
Oh,
running out of 10.
absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
might think you're out of 10 right now, like I did.
Yeah,
And then you may find another level where you realize you're only at a 7 or an 8 right
that's
now.
exactly right.
Have you ever tracked your food? Do you know what your fat percentage is?
I really haven't, and I should.
You should do it just
Yeah,
for the experiment of it.
no, I
Yeah.
should. I really should. All I tracked was carbs, and and for years I kept tweeting out. I said, the fewer carbs I eat, the better I feel.
It's me too. Yeah.
It just kept striking me, as I kept cutting down and down and down and down. It's like, well, every level down got a little better.
That's how I got to meat only. I changed my diet to lose weight. And within 6 months, I was eating only meat.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I want to put out there for in case anyone's uh, alcohol is doubled when you're in ketosis, meaning one drink is literally you get the effect of 2 drinks. And so if people are going to not drop alcohol, or they're drinking alcohol while they're doing a keto diet, they need to go into it knowing that effect, and just have your one drink and wait 30-45 minutes before you have the second one. And by the time that time has passed, you might realize you don't need the second one. So
That's a good point. Yeah. Just like we can get more sensitive to our psychiatric medications or
yeah,
blood
yeah,
pressure meds,
it's a
you
lot
get
of
more sensitive
factors with
basically.
alcohol. It knocks down your body making glucose, because the liver's like in an emergency to get it out. And so if you're not eating glucose and your liver stops making glucose, you don't have glucose. And so your blood glucose goes down, and probably your ketone production goes down. So yeah, and so then the alcohol, you're just burning alcohol, and that's obviously toxic. And you got to be careful, very careful. And eventually I just mostly eliminated it.
What I've heard about how the body burns fuel is that it's going to burn alcohol first because it's toxic. And then I've heard that it'll burn glucose next. And some doctors and people will argue that the body is burning glucose first because it's preferential. But I argue that no, too much glucose is toxic, just like the alcohol. It's going to burn the alcohol first, then the glucose, and it wants to get to its preferred fuel, which is ketones, which come from fat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's the most efficient and cleaning burning fuel. So yeah, it's just people just don't understand. They really haven't tried every intervention out there. If you had, and really, if listening to the story and you're not feeling well, if you're on medicine, and you want to feel better, yeah, give it a try. I mean, you're definitely worth it.
Yeah, and it can't hurt. It definitely can't hurt. And if for some reason it doesn't work, you go back to your old diet.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but it is weird, as you know. We talked about being zebras. Then people who said nothing about you eating 3 bowls of cereal and then a Pop Tart. Are you going to eat all those eggs every day?
Yeah, because I think you're gonna kill yourself with the cholesterol from the eggs.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You couldn't have gotten to a point where our diet is more backwards than it is today. If you tried to make it more backwards, and what people's mind, I mean, they understand that vegetables are okay, but they think, you know, hamburger's bad, and
yeah. Red meat has been demonized,
they think it's because of the hamburger, not the
right?
sugar ketchup in the bun.
And the fries.
They think it's actually the hamburger.
Yeah,
So,
I'm thinking you might be a good case to put yourself out there to start tracking your food and see where your fat percentage is out, and then
yeah,
try try raising it. I bet your fat is like low 70s, if that.
mm, I don't
With the
doubt
way
it.
it sounds like you're eating, it's probably
Probably
like
why
around
I like these keto
70%.
bricks so much because it's an easy way to get fat in. And
Yeah. What flavors are you eating? What do you like?
well, the other thing I like probably my favorite is the maple. Uh,
Yes. Yeah, the maples are great.
yeah, but they've got a new one out now. They have a carnivore brick, carnivore cake, which is I think
Really?
it's marrow in it, and
Oh, really? Is that I know they had one with Mark Bell's protein
yeah,
powder in it.
that one tasted okay.
It was all
Most of
right.
them
Yeah.
taste good. There was one either chocolate malt maybe that I didn't
Yeah,
like.
is that the one with the cocoa beans in it?
Yeah.
The crunchy? Yeah, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah. So
That
they're
peanut
all
butter
pretty
too.
good. I just cut them up into little pieces. I don't eat. I mean, it's 1,000 calories. So it's snack food and it's my dessert. I still, and that's because I haven't completely eliminated it. I still, not after breakfast, but after dinner, I want just a little sweet.
Mm.
I asked Dr. Tro one time. I said, "When does that desire for a sweet at the end of a meal go away?" And he just said, "Never."
Never. Well, I'll tell you, a start would be getting rid of the sweet after dinner would help.
I realize that. Exactly correct. And so it did go away for you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like after a meal. Yeah, so for me, it has to be where I'm doing something wrong to get that feeling.
Huh.
So on most days, I aim to keep my fat at or 90%.
Mm,
And then what I'll do is I'll have like I fasted for 96 hours. So then within a day or two of breaking that fast, I can have a day where I eat a lot of meat and I'm okay. But if I eat a lot of meat for a couple of days in a row, or if I really, really stuff my belly with a lot of meat, I will get a little tired, a little lethargic, and I will have this thought like, well, I need something now. And where my brain goes is something sweet,
mm.
preferably cold and refreshing, like an ice cream. Or if I had a brick, we used to keep them in the fridge, like a piece of cold brick. But like I said, it's only when I'm doing something wrong that I'm going to have
Interesting.
that feeling.
Yeah. Well, and what I may be currently doing wrong is not enough fat, and that drives the craving for
Absolutely.
energy, and that's my brain has the most energy in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I have the tagline, and it's I have fun with it, but I literally fix myself with fat. So if I do have cravings like that, or like in the past when I have
Mm,
been able to stay on the diet the way I want to, and I binge, I will fast, and then I will eat nothing but fat for a couple of days, and
mm.
it works every time.
Interesting. Interesting.
Is there anything else you want to talk about before we do the closing?
Well, let me
Any
think.
of the metabolic mind stuff?
Yeah, well, people absolutely should go to Metabolic Mind and look at their website. There, if that were there in 2017, I wouldn't have had to walk around and scrounge for information and latch onto every word I found here and there. It literally is all there, and and then maybe the community is there too. That's probably what people need to really find. My community was online, and it was Dr. Palmer and Dr. Eid interacting with me, and then it was Dave Feldman with Cholesterol Code and his work, and Siobhan Huggins, and going to conferences, going to rallies. I mean, that was I don't know if you've been to conferences, but you really
Not
do
yet.
find a support group. When when you're on this journey.
Yeah, I'm new to like being public about this, right? I just started my YouTube last spring, and I did look into the conferences and I saw the expense, and I don't have the money,
I get
unfortunately.
that. I get that.
And
So yeah,
part of the reason I went to Miami to see Chris do that thing was he was filming for the Peterson Academy. It was
yeah.
free to attend.
Oh
So
wow.
all I had to do was
Wow.
pay for the hotel and the flight down there. And it was recommended that I start a GoFundMe, which was very uncomfortable for me to ask for money.
Yeah.
But it worked really well. There were strangers on from Reddit that were giving me money, the Facebook groups, and
Yeah.
I made enough money that it paid like 3/4 of the trip for me to be able to go.
What an experience. That's a memory you'll always have.
I
I
mean,
remember
I
when that.
sat I sat 10 feet from Chris Palmer for
Mm,
2 full days while
mm,
he put together this training seminar that's going to be coming out for the Peterson Academy. And he told all the stories, like the one about his patient, all the stories I've heard before, but in more depth and in more detail. And he's
mm,
looking at me as it was just
mm.
amazing. And then I got to ask questions at the end, too, of every session. We got to ask questions.
Wow. Well,
Yeah. And then
I'm going to have to pay for and watch that at some point.
had to hang out, offset afterwards and talk to him. And that's when we became friends. And he followed me on Twitter the first night. It was an amazing experience. I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, that's a memory you'll always have. And it's, yeah, that's just tremendous. So yeah, well, and then with Metabolic Mind, well, prior to that, Dave asked me to be in his film that's coming out maybe February next year, somewhere early next year. And it's about,
Dave who?
what's that?
Tell us Dave who?
Dave Feldman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Feldman, who's
Cholesterol code.
done a lot of research. He himself was pre-diabetic. He went on a keto diet. Blood sugar went down, but his cholesterol went up. And it was like, that's weird. And so that's a whole, that's 8 years of his life, maybe 10 now, researching this. And I became friends with Dave. And so I was probably ready to kind of scale back and just say, okay, well, I fixed myself. No one else seems to be interested. So why am I bothering talking about it? And I was probably right at that point when Dave said, "You want to be in the film?" And I couldn't say no. I wanted to be in it, and so that kind of reinvigorated me to be more of an advocate for this. So I have, I don't know what they'll use, but I'm in that. And then Jan Bazuki asked me to go to their retreat in Florida, and I was on a panel, which is on the Metabolic Mind website now, a panel of me, Lauren, and I always forget
Harmony.
Harmony.
Harmony
Exactly.
Bright. Yeah.
I just didn't know Harmony until that meeting, and so I just anyway, and so yeah, that was tremendous, and so there's just so much good going on because of the Bazuki Foundation. And I wonder if this could be the lever where Atkins, was a weight loss thing, and it kind of came, and then it kind of faded off. But I wonder if the mental benefit of treating mental illness, and everyone would feel better if they ate better. Literally, your brain works better.
It's coming.
I wonder if this will be the straw that breaks the back, the tipping
It's
point.
Yes, it's now. So
Yeah,
it's this wave and it's getting bigger
yeah,
and it's coming. And it with this election and with
mm,
RFK and
mm,
with them wanting to change our food,
yeah.
and you've got the metabolic revolution, and now there's going to be the metabolic collective coming out soon. It's coming.
People just need to hear that this is. They don't know that this is so. This is such a big deal. And so yeah. So now I like being part of Metabolic Mind. I like being in the film. I like coming on your podcast. So
Yeah, it's great.
because still in real life, it's hard to find somebody that wants to listen.
And I'm out there telling everybody I possibly can. We were at a holiday craft sale over the weekend, and the woman had these little. She was crocheting, and she said, "Follow me on Instagram, and you get a free gift." And I was there with Samantha. Said, "I'll follow you." So I followed her. She gave us a couple of crocheted hearts, and then I said, "You're gonna follow me back, right?" So she followed me back, and she goes, "Oh, like she's like, what are you into?" I'm like, because she sees all my pictures of meat, and I'm fasting for 4 days. So we had a quick talk, but I'm like pushing the keto message on her, and it's everywhere I go now. And a lot of people have heard about keto. They know about it. They just don't really know exactly what it is or how to do it. And most people don't think it's most people just think it's for weight loss, and they don't know about the mental health benefits. And that's where I start. I'm telling everybody that wants to listen to me about it.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I've talked to a lot of patients, and I've had some of them come back a year later and say, you know what, I, I need less diabetes medicine. I'm getting better. I've had a few,
That's good.
and I've had a few that, and then they come back, yeah, I quit doing that. But
Uh,
and that's fair. It's not everybody's not going to stick to it.
we're ready to get into the closing questions now, Eric.
Yeah.
All right. So I have two questions that are posed to your younger self. And the first is related to diet and mental health. The second one is more of a life lesson, not related to mental health. So the first one is, what is a piece of advice you give to your younger self before you discovered the diet? Something along the lines of how to get through the tough times.
I would say, knowing what I know now, that there is a path towards complete recovery, and and you just need to find it, and that path would be different for everyone, and you just got to keep searching, and realize there is our bodies want to heal. Our bodies are made to heal. Our bodies can heal themselves, but you just have to find the right intervention, the right lifestyle, the right path to go down, and you don't have to be where you are now for forever.
That's amazing. If someone would have told me back in the day when I was suffering that I needed to look at my lifestyle and that there was a solution out there, I just had to find it, that definitely would have given me hope and
Yeah,
got me through the tough
that's it.
times.
Hope, and that's Dr. Ead's tagline: "Is hope is on the menu."
Yeah. And Chris Palmer says recovery starts with hope.
Mm,
You have to have hope.
that one. I'm surprised I haven't heard that. I like that though. Yeah, if you lost hope, you're it's not it's about dark.
All right. So my second question is also posed to your younger self, but not really related to diet or mental health, just a life lesson. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
To be in the moment. Don't fret over something that's already happened that you can't change. Learn from it, but don't but move away from it. You are away from it. You're in the moment now that you're in now. So looking backwards just to get a life lesson maybe, but then and then don't look forward too far. Maybe have goals, but don't obsess on what could be coming down the road, because you're probably wrong in your guesses. I would say you are wrong. So stop guessing. Do better right now, and good things happen.
That was a very good answer. And what I like about these questions is that you're posing this to your younger self, but you just gave advice for every single human on the planet. Everybody would benefit from living in the moment, not letting failures kill them, and not looking too far forward. It's not about the setback, it's about the comeback. That was my last guest, Natalie said. And I really love that. Um, just a great, great piece of advice you just gave there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So that brings us to my last question, my signature question. It's a question that encourages you to share a broader, more philosophical insight or a life lesson that ties into your experience with the ketogenic lifestyle, hopefully providing something meaningful and potentially even new after our in depth interview. This is my fat fueled philosophy question. What's one powerful piece of fat fueled philosophy, a life lesson, or a mantra that you've embraced on your ketogenic journey and you think could inspire our listeners?
It is fix yourself with fat because you have to eat protein. You do not have to eat carbs. Stop the carbs and eat the fat, and you will, as Steve says, you will fix yourself. It's pretty it's glaringly obvious.
I love it. And everybody's given such good answers to this question that I always give a round of applause. Wait, how could I not love someone using the tagline? Like I said, it's not a gimmick. It's something I have fun with, but it is true. So there are two forms of energy for your body, and it's either carbs or it's fat. And carbs are non-essential. Glucose, your body can create its own glucose. Fat is essential. You must eat. Your body can't create its own fat. And we're out here trying to fix ourselves with fat.
And we did. And we did. You deserve a huge round of applause. You fixed your whole family.
Well, it's a work in progress. We're not. It's. I'm never going to be at the destination. I'm always traveling on the path of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the excitement. If it's like at the end of a marathon, it's done, it's over. It's a big letdown.
Right.
The health journey we're on, tomorrow might even be better than today. And next year could be a lot better than today.
Have you had a chance to see the end of any of my shows yet?
I don't recall then. I probably have, but
That's good. That's good. All right. So we're going to do the tagline. Hang on a sec. Let me get my get up on. We're going to do the tagline. I have my tenets in life, and it's the diet and meditating and barefoot walking and all this stuff. But one of my tenets is to have fun,
I haven't seen the
enjoy
Jordan.
life. So I like to take us out with a laugh. I get into my rapper persona here.
There we go.
Get the headphones back on so I can hear you laughing. All right. So the tagline is fix yourself with fat. And that's how I do it. That's my own unique way. What I'm doing is having all my guests take us out with the tagline in their own unique way. And then I'm going to make a compilation of all of them someday. Is that something you can do for us, Eric?
Sure. Fix yourself with fat. It's obvious. Do it now.
That's great. It's obvious. I like that. That was great, Eric. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
So not next month, in January, I'm having Georgia Eat on the show, and I'm going to get her to say "Fix yourself with fat." Someday I'll have Chris Palmer. I had Vinny Tortorich on.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my plan for this in the beginning. It was like I like to dream big. So when I first started, I said, someday I'm going to have Chris Palmer on, and he's going to say "Fix yourself with fat." I was trying to think of something funny and cool I could have all these people do.
Have you created like little shorts? Do you know how to do that? Little clips to put out there?
I do, and I have, but it's very time consuming. That's why I haven't done it.
That's what you need to maybe learn how to do that better, because then you could draw people into the interviews more with.
I need a team is what I need. I need to stop being a one-man show, So like the amount of time that I put in for our show is preparing the interview. We did a quick test. We had technical difficulties, so we spent time with the testing. And then obviously it's the recording and then the editing. I also made a thumbnail. That takes a little bit of time. So it's all very time consuming. And don't forget, I'm working a full-time job and I'm trying to be a dad. I'm also trying to live my life. So on the weekends, for the most part, I'm stepping away from the computer.
Okay.
So I'm limited on time. Now the shorts, if you go on my channel and you look at shorts, you're going to not see mental health stuff. You're going to see like Samantha and I at the lake.
Sure. I have looked at some of that, and I like
shorts of me kayaking. And you know why? It's because those are so quick and easy to do. If it's a little video that I have on my phone, I can just throw it up as a short real easy. But to cut up a show, it's a little bit more time and effort. What I've done in the past when I have more time is I will make a trailer for a guest. So I don't know if you had a chance to see, but for Hannah and for Mia, I made a 3-minute trailer.
That's it. That's perfect. Yeah.
I put the trailer out a couple of days prior to the interview coming out, so people would get an idea of what I'm going to be asking.
And maybe Dr. Eads and Dr. Palmer, spend more time. Don't do any interviews for a while. Spend more time with those and do some good trailers.
And that's exactly how I have it set up. So I am interviewing until the end of the year, so that I'm going to have a show coming out probably every Friday.
There you go.
I just had Natalie. I have you. Then I'm sorry, Brett Smith. Then you. I'm interviewing Donica. I have a couple other guests, Jackie from the NetRev, and then I'm kind of like at the end of December, I'm going to take a break for the holidays, and then I have Georgia somewhere in the middle of January. And I wasn't really planning anything else because I want to prep like 3 weeks. I want to prep for her, and then I probably won't have a show coming out for a while because I'll be working on hers.
Thank you. That's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. All right. Sounds great.
It was a real pleasure talking to you. I'd love to do it again someday.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.